Of course, this had to happen now, during our 25th episode.
Come on, guys, let me out of here. This is ridiculous. I'm fine. Everyone gets a little angry sometimes.
Sorry, KF, can't do it. You lost it, but we're gonna get you help, really.
Don't worry, it's just temporary. You'll be out in no time.
Look, I can't stay in here. I was just being a butthurt dumbass. I'm sorry. I say mean things when I'm angry.
You threatened to kill us.
Oh, you have to know I didn't mean it. Besides, I'm fine now, really.
Go ahead. Say something.
Really, I'm as calm as either of you.
So, did you get a chance to play that new exploit mission? I got a mountain of dilithium.
I'll kill you! I'll kill you, traitorous swine! If I ever get out of here, you're dead. Do you hear me? Dead.
Hey, did you catch that Tsunkatse match last night?
Are you kidding? I had Latinum down on Jaraka to take Redo in the 3rd round. Issues rear their ugly head again. Foundry Challenge 7 winner announced. Challenge 8 delayed, and more in the news. Tonight's news is brought to you by Solicitor Bran. For compensation, he's your man.
Hello, I am Solicitor Bran. Have you been injured in a transporter accident? Or maybe some careless hoarder rubbed against you in the turbo lift someplace, causing 3rd-degree burns? How about all those terrible viruses that alien visitors bring with them to your planet? It's enough to make your lobes itch. Well, I'm here to tell you that you could be entitled to gold-pressed latinum, and a lot of it. Like the 182nd rule of acquisition states, if all else fails, sue. That's where I come in. I will fight to my last breath to get us the latinum you deserve, or at least what you can get. Just listen to Mr. Bollock, one of my clients.
It's true. My wife and I were finally able to get away to Riza for a well-earned vacation. We arrived as planned and beamed down from a Bolian transport vessel with the rest of the passengers. When we reached the surface, one of my kidneys had been replaced with some Andorian woman's carry-on bag. Later that night, a lifeguard had to pry my missing kidney out of a stray targ's mouth. It really put a damper on the whole vacation. Somebody had to pay, and Solicitor Bran made sure they did.
Thank you, Mr. Bollock. I know how terrible it was for you, but I'm glad I could help you get the justice you deserved. The transport owner took care of all Mr. Bollock's medical expenses and extended hospital stay. And I didn't even collect a single slip of latinum, thanks to Mrs. Bollock and her talent for umox. And remember, if I don't win, you don't pay much. Bran, he'll fix your problem if he can. Oh, Bran, for compensation, he's your man.
Foundry issues return. Last Primetime News, I reported that it looked as though the issues with the Foundry editor were on the mend and things were returning to normal. Sadly, I must retract this news story, as no sooner was this broadcast recorded than the latency issues and saving issues returned. We can only hope that efforts will be redoubled to make this go away and our lives will once again be improved. Foundry Challenge 7 winner announced. The winner of the challenge was Alpha Flight by Rellimtime82. It is a level 31 plus mission, and runners-up for the challenge also include our own Kirkfat with Waiting for the Light, Ricky Smith 1 with Inner Space, and P. Sutherland with Beneath the Skin. Foundry Challenge 8 delayed. Due to the current state of the Foundry editor and some public backlash, Foundry Challenge 8 has been delayed indefinitely. We will of course keep you posted on the situation when it changes. And now, a brief editorial. While this makes us at PrimetimeUGC sad to see such events have transpired, we feel that this is a good call. The current state of the Foundry is not optimal for introducing new users to it at this time, nor is it pleasant to work in for those experienced with its arcane ways. It is our fondest hope that this will be a wake-up to the powers that be, that things have been going on for far too long now. While I can understand that there's a lot on the plate for the team, with the completion of one major project, the cleanup of issues created across the board, and the preparation for the next big thing, Legacy of Romulus launched May 21st. It is now turning to August, and these issues are still outstanding. Maps still take an absurd amount of time to load and preview. Saves are spotty sometimes, with outright failures. Some people cannot even create characters to edit Foundry missions, and of late, disconnects have been occurring from the editor, exacerbating all of this situation. It would be nice to see and hear some progress being made on this front, but I do digress from the news. Which leads us to State of the Game released. Dan Stahl ran down what has recently passed, the release of the Legacy of Romulus, and gives a briefest hint of what's to come. For our purposes, though, it must be noted that no mention was given to the Foundry in this State of the Game. When queried on this, Brenflake stated that there would be something Foundry-related forthcoming, but he was not entirely sure when. We will, of course, continue to monitor this for you, gentle beings. Star Trek Las Vegas. Multiple Star Trek Online events have been set for Star Trek Las Vegas. A Hanging with the Devs event at the iBar in the Rio is open to anyone 21 years of age or older. Sorry, Oliver. Even if you were there, you couldn't attend. And of course, there's the Dev panel, which will be the highlight of the Star Trek Online experience there, featuring Dan Stahl, Captain Gecko, Thomas the Cryptic Cat, and everybody, except maybe Kirkfat's favorite community manager, Bran Flakes. If any gentle listeners out there are attending, ask for us some Foundry questions, would you? And if you could get us a copy of the whole shebang on audio, that would be even better. Trek Radio will also be broadcasting a Legacy of Romulus panel on Friday, August 9th, featuring Denise Crosby, who will be sitting down with Captain Gecko and Bran Flakes to discuss how she fits into the grander scheme of all things Star Trek Online. Guest blog, Star Trek Online podcasts. Midnight 7 posted a guest blog about the wider world of internet podcasters that ply their craft to be entertaining and informative to the wider Star Trek Online community. And he even somehow managed to include us in the list. Will wonders ever cease? PvP Boot Camp update. For those of you who like the pew-pew, go check out what's been going on. There's been a lot of movement in the command ranks as real life takes a bite at a time for some. To give thanks to those involved for their time and effort to try and make shooting someone in the face a more enjoyable event. Gold sale. 3-month subs for gold members are now on sale. They are presently buy 2, get 1 free, with a 3-month sub costing $20. This will get you 2 months of a 500 cent stipend, expanded bank slots, and of course, Foundry slots. If you've ever considered doing this, now might be the time to try it out. Dilithium Mine Project 3 has been announced. This project adds miners and workers to the various confines of the ground maps. Romulan veteran rewards are released. This includes the Danos Heavy Destroyer, the Romulan equivalent of the Chimera, the 900-day ship material, which is a beautiful material if you have not yet been able to obtain it, the Romulan Admiral uniform with an 800-day gold-trimmed version, the 400-day Commander's Gig shuttlecraft, and the 200-day Romulan dress uniform. Legacy of Romulus packs, which contain the various ships, the Riemann costumes and such, are now purchasable in the C-Store for the convenience of those who would rather pay Zen to get the pack in-game as opposed to outside. Carrier interface changes to the way the pets are controlled are coming soon. If you fly one of these ships, head over to Tribble and check them out. The ARC system. Much has been mentioned about this system, which for those of you who don't know is basically Perfect World's wrapper for all of their products, much like Steam and Origin are. It has its pros and cons, and I will leave it up to you to decide where you stand on things. And finally, Priority 1 visited Cryptic, and in multiple interviews they sat down with Captain Gecko and got some peeks of things to come and some things we've already seen. Subspace Radio sat down with Cryptic Kestrel and chatted with her about her role in the game. And finally, Massively continued its reporting of Terry Scholl's visits Cryptic Studios, this time with her sit-down with Dan Stahl. And that is the news.
Welcome to Primetime UGC's mini-mission review, and for our 25th episode, we're reviewing a mission called Duritanium Man by Zorbane. Beginning in the Rye system, you are invited to a future version of the World's Fair to witness the latest breakthroughs in technology from around the galaxy. There you are directed to meet with brilliant but flawed scientist Johnny Clark. Without giving the mission away, I'll only say that some of the tech needs refinement. There is a lot of it to see, and other parties present are interested in a particular gadget for their own dubious reasons.
I really enjoyed playing this story again. It's a great story. I think its biggest strength is the characters, who are often quite charming and humorous. The story is also interesting and easy to follow. One thing I will say is that for some Trek fans, it might break some immersion due to its style. To me, it feels like an episode of Stargate SG-1, the good Stargate. And I'm not just referring to the character of Neil O'Jack. There's just something about the style, humor, and some of the stereotyped characters that felt like Stargate. Now, I love Stargate, so I love this mission, but I can imagine that a super serious Canaanite might object to the style. Story gets 4.5 stars, now on to map design.
Running through this mission was visually satisfying, but nothing jumped out right away. There were bare-walled interiors that KF discusses in a minute, and the space maps were competently designed. I was expecting solid work from Zorbane, and it definitely is, but at one point, when I did not expect it, he revealed a truly great interior map that I didn't see coming. I walked around in it for a bit just to look around. It was very impressive, some really fine detail.
Great custom sets here. I particularly liked the use of windows as well as all of those little details in the Galaxy Fair. I do wish Zorbane and others had better walls at times. There are a few parts of the map that honestly look a little like Doom, but a lot of that just can't be helped given the lack of good props to build custom sets. I do think there could have been more done with the caves. They felt a little sparse and rushed together compared to the really big, elaborate maps. Still, I'll give maps 4.5 stars. On to tech.
It's hard to think back now at a single great use of tech in this mission. Not to imply there weren't any, but there were just so many it's hard to isolate. I can tell you that none of the triggers were bugged and performed perfectly, and the author grants the player a multitude of choices within his dialogues.
While this mission had every variety of trigger and other creative thing done with tech, I think the real achievement is how the mission is built in a way that lets the player decide how they will experience the mission, as far as how much they want to explore the backstories, the optional characters, the details, etc. It's still a very linear story, as are most of our stories, yet there is a bonus level of immersion that makes it feel non-linear at times in the beginning. I'll give tech 5 stars. Difficulty.
Difficulty. This category is always difficult. Well, it is. While the battles were appropriately placed all the way through, I have to say that I didn't have much trouble with any of the fighting. During one of the ground altercations, I decided to use an orbital strike against the main bad guy in the mob. By the time my toon finished typing in the request, my buffs had already taken him out. I found the battles a bit easy.
It's hard for me to rate this mission because I died a lot before realizing that I still had my EV suit equipped. When I put armor back on, it was fun and challenging. I do have to say that the Riemann space maps were way too easy. I may have missed the technical explanation for that, but the Riemann space battles were pretty underwhelming. Difficulty gets 3.5 stars.
And that's our take on Duritanium Man by Zorbane. Jump in game and play it for yourself.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, it's Crazy Chulaski here. That's right, I'm back. I'm always trying to live way out there on the dagger's edge, thinking up absolutely nutty and zany ways to bring you quality products at the lowest bargain basement prices, and today is no exception. I've spent way too much time around these babes in bondage, and it's taught me one thing. These lackluster, leftover lovelies all have one thing in common. They secrete a pheromone that can drive a man so utterly and completely stark raving mad that one whiff can get most males to sell their own mothers for a second helping. And trust me, I've bought a few of these mothers, and they are nearly ripe for resale. But that's another commercial. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm prepared to just about give you this fine concoction for free. That's right, you heard me. Your ears aren't blocked, you're not deaf, and you heard correctly. Crazy, you say? You're freaking A right, I'm crazy, because I'm Crazy Chulaski. And it's not a stretch to understand why I got the nickname, especially since I'm here now to offer you this sweet perfume. We're talking immediate and unconditional surrender in a little bottle. I call it Le Sur. You might recognize the Earth language as French. All perfume names are French. I've traveled from Alpha Centauri to Zeta Andromeda, and they're always in French. Alpha Quadrant French, Delta Quadrant French, don't ask me why. Anyway, translated, the name means sweat. That's right. It's a perfectly pungent and powerful perspiration that will render a man absolutely helpless, enabling the wearer to assume total command, and I am giving you a few ounces to try for free. Once you see how effective it is, you ladies will be lining up to leave me Latin. I know the only question on your minds. Chulaski, you queer me. How is it that you were unaffected? Well, that's easy. When I was but a lad, Mother Chulaski warned me of this post-pubescent peril. In a monumentally masochistic maneuver, I took a piping hot poker to my olfactory membranes, nullifying that nasal nightmare. The pain was such that I sacrificed my sanity, but it was worth it. I can now continue to sell off my stable of slightly soiled sluts at drastically reduced prices. So to get your sample of Le Sur, send your name and address to gww.sweat.aquad. And I'll send you out, at no charge of any kind, 3 ounces of this priceless perspiration harvested from Orion harlots at the peak of their promiscuity. Why? Because I'm Crazy Chulaski. Say it with me. Crazy Chulaski. Crazy, crazy, crazy Chulaski. And my prices are, wait for it, insane!
Welcome to Kirk's Fat Assets. In this edition, I'll be counting down the top 10 props on Bajor that I'd love to see in the Foundry. Without further ado, let's do it.
Number 10.
This banner. I like it because it moves and it seems fairly generic. There are lots of times when I'm building an alien city and I really wish I had props like this one. It's pretty nice.
Number 9.
This light. We have some lampposts somewhat similar to this, but they're far too industrial looking for a place like Ryza or inside of a cave. Having these lights would help out many authors who could use them in lots of creative ways.
Number 8.
This tree. Yes, I know we have lots of trees in the Foundry, but none of them look this nice and realistic. Please add.
Number 7.
The orb. There's a starburst effect that works really well with the orb on the DS9 map. The problem is, well, the orb's stuck on the DS9 map, so anytime a Foundry author needs to use the orb, then he or she has to use the DS9 map. For the love of the profits, add in the orb.
Number 6.
The vendor booth. Having more props like this would help us add lots of nice details to custom cities. It would also give us a more realistic way to give players a fetch quest for certain items. Please add.
Number 5.
This bench. We have almost nothing that resembles outdoor seating in the Foundry, and we could do a lot of useful things with this bench. It's also so generic that it would fit with a lot of different settings.
Number 4.
The water. If we had a 40 by 40 flat and transparent surface area of water, we'd use it for all kinds of things, from adding water puddles to hilly maps to making a hot tub. This kind of prop is a must-have.
Number 3.
This bridge. I don't know if it's even textured on the top, but I really want it or something like it. The closest thing to it is the rope bridge. I want to build better sky cities, and this bridge would go a long way in helping me to do that.
Number 2.
These shelves with all their goodies. And let me explain. There are many times when I want the player to fetch something like a gun, a med kit, a pad, or a special item. The problem is we have none of those things in the Foundry, so just having a set of shelves that contain those items would really help.
Number 1.
And the number 1 item on Bajor is the open holodeck. Yes, we already have a TNG-style holodeck box that the player can start inside of and then initiate a program. But we really need one that has an open door so the player can enter and exit it without some kind of crazy trigger workaround that traps them inside of a box. Also, the holodeck prop that we have is TNG. It's out of date for 2409. So those are my top 10 picks for Bajor. May the prophets guide the Foundry out of darkness and into the light.
Hi, I'm Bazag, and I like to stab. Of course, I don't just stab people, but I stab ideas as well. Yes, you can stab ideas. Stabbing gets to the heart of the matter, and I like to do so with all sorts of matters related to the Foundry. And this is why I'm creating a new podcast called Bazag Stabs. Bazag Stabs will be covering everything from Foundry mission reviews to discussions about designing and developing your mission. I'll be talking about mission structure, storytelling ideas, and tutorials about including cool technical tricks. I also hope on occasion to take some cryptic employees hostage and force them out to Plastic Knife Point to answer some questions. If you're interested in learning how to make a Foundry mission, or to make your Foundry mission better, Bazag Stabs is for you. So keep a lookout at Starbase UGC or Tavern UGC, and you'll never know what I might take a stab at next.
Welcome to Primetime UGC's author interview. In this episode, we're glad to have with us Rellimtime82.
Hello.
Welcome, Rellim.
Thank you.
When did you get into Star Trek Online, and then when did you get into the Foundry?
I got into Star Trek Online. I actually pre-ordered it and bought the lifetime subscription before it even came out. So I've been into it since the beginning. I've been on and off due to, family things. The Foundry, though, I only picked up maybe a month before the Foundry Author Academy, so not that long.
Yeah, I remember that I was the one who reviewed your mission, which I thought was great.
Thank you.
What do you use mostly for your inspiration when you design a Foundry mission?
I use my experience in the Army because, the time frame of what's going on is during war, and we've been at war for a while.
Yeah.
I take my experiences or the experiences that friends have gone through, and I put what I know into it.
Now, that's the writer's axiom, right, what you know.
Yep.
Do you take any inspiration from the Star Trek series at all? Which one is your favorite?
I want to say Voyager, just because of 7 and 9.
Excellent.
So, Realm, who do you write your missions for?
Basically write the missions for myself, because if I can't enjoy it, then how do I actually expect anyone else to? I like to get reviews just like anyone else does.
Yeah, fair point.
True. I've noticed that you're posting reviews. When you do these reviews, are they just the Foundry challenges?
I just started on the Foundry Challenge number 7. I do plan to do the new spotlights as they come out. I do hope to, at least do like 2 a week. One is a spotlight and one's just players that send in reviews.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen them up there before, so you've been doing it for a little while.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about going over and doing reviews also for Neverwinter, but I'm iffy about that right now.
Are you playing Neverwinter right now?
I have a character at level 6.
On the cusp of accessing the Foundry. Have you had an opportunity to play with Foundry in any way, shape, or form over there yet?
When it was out in beta, I played with the interior editor for a little bit. I don't really like the layout or the character creation, so I kind of just gave up on it.
Because the obvious easy question is, as a Star Trek Online player, what would you like to see come from that editor into our systems?
The teleports. I like to be able to actually move people from point A to point B without having to use a trick.
Yeah, that's a good one, only I'd like to have more control over it. You'd like to be able to shut it behind you if you don't want them to travel back, you know?
No, of course. Especially if you do, like, beaming and...
When you're playing other people's Foundry missions, what are you looking for as a player?
As a player, I'm looking for anything that keeps me into the story or into the mission. If it gets boring or it just starts becoming ridiculous, I can't play the mission no more. Unless I'm reviewing it, then I tough to the end of it.
What about your own missions? Do you tend to tell more story-oriented missions, or do you have a lot of battle in them?
I mainly focus on story. I like to throw in battles, just so the players won't get bored. But, I try to keep it balanced, but I think I lean more towards story than I do battles. At least that's my opinion. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
If you could have one item added to the Foundry at this time, be it from any source, be it an item or an ability, other than, let's say, the teleporters, what would it be?
From Neverwinter?
Well, it doesn't have to be Neverwinter. It could be an ability like something you've seen in-game. It could be something completely outside of the game. It could be an item. If you could magically appear in the studio and go, make it so, and it was, what would it be?
A 3D editor. A wireframe, at least, I don't need the pictures on the map to tell me what it is. I just need the actual size and measurements, so I can properly place it on the map.
Of all the Foundry missions that you've played, whose mission has impressed you the most?
And it can be your own.
To say Green Dragoons in the Shadow of Midas Part 1, because, it kept me on my edge of my seat through the whole entire mission. At the end, with the cliffhanger, I was screaming at my computer, like, why do you have to end there? So I'm waiting for Part 2 to come out.
And I believe he's been working on that for quite a while now.
For almost a year.
Yeah. Well, should be worth it.
I hope so.
Now it's time for our wrap-up questionnaire that we call the Primetime 5. We'll ask 5 questions for you to answer, each with a choice. No elaboration necessary.
Your answers will tell our viewers a little more about you. First up, Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Constitution or Galaxy class?
Galaxy.
Kirk or Picard?
Kirk.
Coffee or tea?
Neither, actually. But I'll go tea.
Klingon or Romulan?
Klingon.
Okay, very interesting. That's going to do it for this week's author interview. Thank you so much, Rellim, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, not a problem. Anytime. Please keep giving us content.